am so pleased to have as our guest today the Reverend Dr. Donald Gray. Before we get to that, though, I have to give you a little bit of an introduction about We the People podcast. I am the host of the We the People podcast. And with every opening, we always say that the opening words of the Constitution are "We the people," and they signify the power of the U.S. government, not the government, but us. And we are the people who are the government. Sometimes we forget that, and lately we've been forgetting that a lot. But we have to figure out how we make our voices heard, how we um, make sure that our communities are safe and that our communities are heard. And that's why I'm excited to have Reverend Dr. Gray, Pastor Gray, with us today. You know, one of the things I was going to ask him right now is it okay if I call you Pastor Gray, or would you like me to call you Reverend Dr. Gray, or how would you like me to refer
Whatever,
to
whatever,
you?
whatever spirit leads you to do. I mean, I'm just Donald. I'm this little country boy from Kannapolis. So whatever you call me, it's going to be okay.
Thank you so much. Well, like I said, our guest is the Reverend Dr. Donald Gray. He is pastor of Mount Sinai Baptist Church, right? In
Yes.
in Catawba, which is
Hmm.
in North Carolina. I keep
Yes.
telling people that, and they say, "Where is that? Tennessee?" No, it's in North Carolina. It's Western North Carolina. And he is a man of such accomplishments. He's gonna tell you that in a few minutes. But I thought I'd introduce him a little bit myself. Uh, but he's the best person to talk about himself. He is a man of accomplishments, of thoughtfulness, of community encouragement, and activism. One of the things that I love so much about the work that he does is he encourages people. He helps people to understand why it's important to do what they're doing or not do what they're doing. And I love that about him. He's also a businessman. He's a defender of families and especially children. He's a movie producer. How great is that to have a movie producer in your midst? And he's the producer and star. These attributes just hit the surface. So, Pastor Gray, it's all yours.
Well, the Constitution said we the people, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote general welfare, to promote this Constitution of the United States of America. And so um, I don't know how much that means to you or mean to anybody else, but just being me means more to me than anything else. My dad walked off and left us when I was 8 years old, and ever since then, he was in and out of my life. And so most of the stuff that I've done in my life is trying to find the little boy, the comfort for that little boy that's on the inside of me.
Oh, great. So tell me, you were a businessman? What was that about?
Well, I went to a little small school up in Raleigh called Shaw University, and
Oh, very,
Shaw
very familiar with y'all.
okay, Shaw afforded me an opportunity to come to school. And while working there, I got a job with a company called UPS. And
Oh,
I was the first, it was only one black supervisor out of about 60 supervisors. One went to North Carolina State. And I was afforded the opportunity to become a supervisor at UPS while I was a student at Shaw University. I was given an opportunity to be the HR manager uh, from Charlotte all the way back to the Tennessee line for 20 plus years. I also
wow.
was an industrial engineer planner with UPS in the Piedmont division, which concludes Winston-Salem, Hickory, Hendersonville, Statesville, and Lenore. I had to make the plans for all those places, tell them how many packages had to come in there, how many trucks had to go out, how many people had to work there every day. So it was a really complicated thing. And this was before you had all the AI. Before you had the computers, you had a computer. So God has blessed me to be able to do some things that normal people wouldn't be able to do.
So, with all that in mind and with the work that you did at UPS, what inspired you to change directions, to become a minister, to
Well,
go to Shaw?
I started preaching in 1983. Um, I was preaching my initial sermon in 1983, went to Shaw the very next week.
Wow.
And 1987, this church called Mount Sinai Baptist Church in Catawba was looking for a pastor. And I was 25 years old and they were looking for a pastor and I wasn't interested, but I went and took the church anyway. And so after 39 years of, I was a bivocational pastor for a long time. And so after 39 years of pastoring this church, I think I've learned a few things about people. And God just led me to leave UPS. And it was a very, very, very hard decision with 3 kids, with 4 children, and 3 of them in college at that time, and left that church, left that position in order to do what God wanted me to do.
So when you did that, the church where you were at Mount Sinai, you were still working at UPS?
I was still working. I was a bivocational pastor and worked, worked 15, 16, 17 hours a day. And then on Sunday, you come in and preach a little bit. But then we started a television broadcast and God started leading me to do more stuff. And it started to take away. And I was actually embarrassed to tell somebody that I was a bivocational pastor. I would be out there, even though it was a prestigious position. I didn't like the thing that I was working a job and still trying to pastor this church.
But so when did you make the switch, make the change?
It's been about 18 years ago now. It's been about
Okay.
18 years, yes.
Okay.
And I went from $100,000. The next year I made $13,000.
Quite a switch.
I don't think you asked my wife, she'll tell you it was a big switch.
I was getting ready to ask you what your wife thought about that, but I
that switch whipped my butt too, and whipped hers too.
But it worked for you. It worked out.
It's working now. It's working a little bit now. It didn't in the beginning. It was tough.
Okay. Okay.
That was
Well,
tough.
see, that's one of the things that happens when God says, it's time for you to do something a little different. And the road might be a little rocky at first, but it'll be fine. It'll be fine. And it seems like that's what was going on with you. Um, you are working in Catawba. Could you describe Catawba?
Well,
Especially
Catawba
for
is
my
not.
friends who think it's in Tennessee.
No, Catawba is a little small town. It's in probably when I went there, probably had 700 or 800 people there in Catawba. I actually live in Kannapolis, which is about 45 minutes away.
Okay.
Kannapolis got probably probably got 70,000, 75,000 people in it. Catawba probably now is up to about probably 2,500. But it's between it's between Statesville, North Carolina and Hickory, North Carolina. But it's surrounded by a lake. And if you live on a lake now, it's very expensive. When I went there, it was like country and rural, very rural. But now everybody's moving in place from Charlotte because it's about 45 minutes from Charlotte. It's a bedding place now. You can't buy property where you used to buy property for $2,000 an acre. Now it probably costs you $40,000 an acre.
Wow.
And
My
that's
goodness.
Catawba because it's growing, because people are moving there. For example, they built 206 new homes in front of about 100, probably 100 yards in front of our church, starting from 350 to probably about 600,000. And then less than a tenth of a mile, they built another 125. And then probably next another tenth of a mile right close to me, they're building 40 new townhouses. So it's a growing area now, but it wasn't 39 years ago.
Since it's a growing area, how has it affected people who are, let's say, who traditionally lived in Catawba, and who might not be reaching the benefits of a growing community, or who are impacted adversely from a growing community? How would you say what's going on with that population?
Well, one of the things going on when grandma died, they sold grandma's house. And so they moved away. And so a lot of that's going on. Uh, we worked with the town some with especially with the county that
Hmm.
the taxes that are around us, we try to grandfather some of them in so that the people with the income would be able to work along with them. So they've been really well working with us with that, especially the county governments work with us on that.
Hmm. Hmm. So talk about your ministry with the children, because it seems to be quite extensive.
Hmm. Well, I started out. Reason I started doing this was in 2006 or seven. I was still working. It was 2006. I was still working with UPS. They built a brand new school in Catawba, North Carolina, elementary school. Our church is fenced inside the schoolhouse, and they built a brand new school.
Wait a minute, excuse me. You said the church sits inside the schoolhouse?
It's like an old black school,
Yeah.
and our church, we actually used the same parking lot and fenced inside of that schoolhouse. They took about 20 years ago, they took and built a brand new school and shut that school down temporarily and brought all of the bad kids from the county and made this school into and they just transitioned it out this first year. They're going to be transitioned out. But they took all those kids who was in the rich area, which is called Sherrills Ford, all the blacks that was living in this particular area, and put them in that new school. They took all the poor and the moms and out of these schools, all these so that the other schools' EOG scores could go up. And I raised a lot of hell. Y'all say heaven, but I raised hell because I came from Charlotte and I could see what they were doing. That first year, I started my program because I saw what they were going to do to those kids. There's a program called by George Bush, No Child Left Behind,
Yeah.
with the EOGs.
Mm-hmm.
And those kids that I already knew because they were part of my church were already struggling. And so I started my after school program working with these kids in 2006 when they built that new school. When I
Mm-hmm.
went to have somebody to go, the first day I took off and I went and picked the kids up. I was met by the county attorney, called me at 1 o'clock and told me I couldn't pick those 18 kids I had to pick up. I couldn't pick them up from that school, that new school. I told that attorney that she would have to call the Boys and Girls Club. She would have to call all the other organizations because I had it in writing that those kids could get on this van. And so I hung up on her. And so that first year, that that school, the kids were scoring at 12. The black kids were scoring at 12%. That means
Wow.
88% of those kids were not at grade level. It took me
Mm-hmm.
3 and 4 years to get some of them. So we've had 192 kids to graduate from college since I started this program in 2006. We had 3 to graduate with master's degree this past year, one from Yale University.
That's an amazing record of the accomplishment. I was going to ask you that later, but
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah. Okay.
it's okay. This is a conversation. Conversations wander.
Yeah.
um, but it's amazing to me that you had the initiative to help those kids because it sure sounds like the school district wasn't at all involved in the kids and doing what it could and should have been doing. So, what gave you the inspiration to do that?
When I was in the second grade, I made in 1968. We had to move. Uh, that's when all the black kids had to move. Integration started. The beginning of integration, the end of segregation. That year, the first year I went to school, we really did. It was a choice of whether we had to go. But the second year, my mama drank a lot. My daddy wasn't there. We missed 100 and some days out of school as a little boy. I missed 100 and some days
You and
out.
your siblings?
Yeah.
You and your siblings? Mm-hmm.
Yes. I missed 100 days. They missed 100 days. And
Mm-hmm.
at the black school. And the next year we went to the white school. I didn't even know what grade I was in, whether I was going to be promoted to the first grade or the second grade. And I remember sitting in that class and asking the little white boy one day, "Hey, what grade am I in?" And he told me I was in the second grade because I had to repeat the second grade. I didn't even know they put all the black kids in this auditorium, and they took us to class. They didn't really tell us what grade we were in, so I probably sat in the class a couple of days before I even realized what grade I was in. So I understand these kids. I understand where some of them are.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And what about the parents of many of the kids? How are they doing? You know, there's this business of you hear about affordability all the time. How is it affecting the families, the children that you're working with, and the families that are where the children come from?
Well, for example, our summer camp, we don't let the parents come. We cannot
Yeah.
let the reason why I don't let the parents go, I can't parent the kid and the child too. Because
Mm-hmm.
the children, because of what we do is on such a level, I can't have you in there trying to tell Johnny to shut up when I'm trying to tell him to shut up. Both of us trying to tell him to shut up at the same time. Then I got to tell you to shut up. So
Sure.
we have a lot of that going on. So we don't allow them. But when you don't have a father in the home, when you don't have a daddy in the house, a man, a mentor, or something in the house, it makes all the difference in the world. And most of these kids do not have a mentor. And I had that. Even though my daddy wasn't there was a white man named Bill Glad that taught me, the little Debbie man, taught me how to work, and he taught me how to make money. And and then another white man, my coach, Lex Graham, from the fifth grade, he coached me. Sixth grade, he was my teacher. Seventh grade, he coached me in basketball. When I went to the middle school, when I got to junior high, he coached me in the eighth and ninth, white man, eighth and ninth grade. When I got to the 10th grade, he was my JV basketball coach. When I got to be
Mm-hmm.
11th grade, he was my varsity. So I had mentors, somebody who followed me who took me from a toilet sitting behind the house and didn't care and helped me. And then I had my uncle, who was a preacher, who was probably my hero, who helped me out too. But most of these kids don't have that.
And so that's the role that you play for those children.
Yes.
Now, are there other folks who work with you to do what you do?
Oh, it's impossible for me to do this now at the level we do it. Um, I've got probably 8, 9 people working. We got 50 kids at our summer camp. I've got
Well,
50 kids at summer camp. Um, Last year we were able to take 90 kids and parents to up to Times Square, where they stayed for 4 days and 3 nights.
mm-hmm.
2 chartered buses. If the parent don't, now that's when we bring the parent in, because the parent hadn't been anywhere. And if you're staying in Manhattan in Times Square, it makes their life a lot bigger than so we try to make their life bigger.
What made you want to make their lives enriched like that?
In 19 in 1972, well, the white man, let me give you 1968. The man come and took all the furniture out of the house. We ended up sleeping on the floor. And the white man, Bill Gladden, gave us enough money that my mama, my sister, my brother, and I could sleep in that one bed that he helped us buy because I worked for it. Two
Mm-hmm.
years later, I started playing sports, baseball. And I think in 1972, I was able to go. I was the only black kid with 2 chartered buses going to Atlanta. We went down to Atlanta, where we stayed in what they call the Holiday Inn. It looked like a hamburger sitting up on top of it. We went to Atlanta. Here I am here I am with a toilet behind my house, but going down there with these white boys with all of this, and it changed my mind. And it gave me an opportunity to see things like totally different. And so I
Mm-hmm.
was able to see a world where most people wouldn't able to see the world that I saw.
You know, I saw this article about where you took, what was it, 265 kids to the Charlotte Motor Speedway.
Well,
First
we
of all,
took
I
the
thought
most
that was
of it.
amazingly brave, but But I saw that you took them. So
Mhm.
how did that come about?
Well, we've taken as many as 350 kids to Wake Forest basketball game. Um,
Really?
Football, not basketball, football. It started with a lady by the name of Michelle McQuarrie, who was one of our biggest supporters. Um,
Hmm.
they're the highest givers in the history of Wake Forest University. And she asked me, could I get some kids to come to Wake Forest? And I said, well, I think I can. And so we started out with about 30. I called her back and said, Michelle, I got about 60. We went from 60 to 100 and some. And then we got up to 350. The most we've ever had was 350. And then I called Bob McQuarrie, which her husband said, Bob asked me, how are we going to get them there? I said, we're going to borrow some buses. He said, let me call um, Christian Tours. And we had 5 chartered buses. And if the parent
Whoa.
didn't go, we took the football team, the cheerleaders, the parents, their siblings, and we went up to Wake Forest University to play in 2014, where they played Virginia Tech, and our cheerleaders got to cheer on the sideline with the Wake Forest cheerleader. And Bob also had us where we had he bought us cheeseburgers. For all the kids, we had vouchers where we got cheeseburger, French fries, and a drink. And then on the way back down, he bought us popcorn. The world has to be bigger if they're going to think bigger.
Yeah. That's one thing that I worked in community development for years.
Mm-hmm.
And that was one of the things that was really apparent to me as I tried to work in community um, with families. It's that their world was so limited.
Mm-hmm.
They never left the town that they were born in.
Mm-hmm.
So they never understood what the possibilities were. And so they didn't finish high school often. Um, and I'm wondering if one of the things that you started seeing is the lack of education and how your quest to broaden their world also influenced their interest in education. Did you see any of that?
Well, I see that because I'm seeing me.
Mm-hmm.
Everything that I'm doing now is a reflection of what I saw in me as a little boy. I felt like nobody wanted me. So I felt like I had to out. I felt like I had to. Um, I'm still fighting a little boy, and I realize that who I'm fighting. And every child that I help me. You talking about broadening horizon. When I was a little boy, I worked with the Little Debbie man, where all the rest of the kids were sitting on Copel Street all day long. I was going to Gastonia, North Carolina. We go in Charlotte. We go Charlotte to Gastonia, Gastonia to Bessemer City to Shelby on Monday. The next day we turn back around and go to Statesville, Mooresville, Statesville, Hickory. Next day we come back, we go to Monroe, Rock Hill, South Carolina. So my world was made bigger as a little boy,
Mm-hmm.
not just
Mm-hmm.
Copel Street. So when I came home, I was used to drinking Dr. Peppers, where everybody else was drinking sugar water, Kool-Aid. So
Yeah.
I was able to drink. So I had a big influence. So I was able to drink. I'm talking about 10, 8, 9, 10 years old. I'm drinking, bringing a six. If they got a drink, it was a Shasta. I'm talking about Dr. Pepper, the real thing.
The stuff only good adults drink.
There you go. There you go. I was selling that too. I was making money too.
Oh, were you?
Yes, you had to pay for this stuff too. Now I sold them Little Debbie cake. They called me a Little Debbie man. I was selling.
So that's really how you got started with your business idea
Um,
and the horizons that could be broadened because of your business ideas.
mhm. I tell people all the time the best businessman in my family is my brother. I mean, he used to steal. He knew how to steal. He knew how to do stuff. He was the best businessman I ever seen. I mean, I didn't go into all that, but he was the best businessman I ever saw. But I learned a lot in business, especially with UPS. Oftentimes, I would be the only black at the table. Most of
Hmm.
the
Hmm.
meetings I went to, I'd be the only black, and so oftentimes I tell people now, sometimes I'm too black to be white. but I'm too white to be black. Because
Yeah.
black folk don't like me because I'm talking to the white man. The white man don't trust me. And so here I am trying to bring the two together. And a lot of times I'm the only one sitting up in there and trying to bring back to them what I know. And for example, when I was in Charlotte, you know, Charlotte wasn't the city that it is now. Charlotte was 30 years ago. Charlotte had a lot of whites, but now it's mainly blacks.
Mm-hmm.
So in order to get, for example, in order to get a position with UPS, uh, you have to come through what they call you have to work your way up, seniority. And so at the time, the white kids had stopped wanting to go to UPS to work. But Charlotte was coming in because the way that they're going to pick the drivers who now make $50 an hour. But in order to
Mm-hmm.
pick the drivers, you pick them through seniority. And so the white kids were not applying for these jobs. And so we understood that we had to go out further to get the white kids to come into Charlotte to try so that we could sort of, bring the numbers in. And now you probably go to Charlotte, probably 80% of the drivers are black because of something I did 30 years ago. Because all the blacks moved into Charlotte and the whites moved out. And now those
Yeah.
drivers down there in Charlotte making $50 an hour.
Yeah. Yeah. I understand that. I used to live in Charlotte
Okay.
years, eons, eons, and eons ago. I
Mm-hmm.
used to live in
Mm-hmm.
Charlotte. And so I understand what you're saying. I'd like to go back to this idea of affordability. Um, how would you describe the concept in relation to what the families are experiencing that you work with, the families that you work with,
Mm-hmm.
the issues about affordability, about housing, about food, about transportation, things like that. What's their how are they making out, so to speak, with all the stuff that's going on nowadays, um, and how expensive things are? What's your experience in working with them?
Well, they were struggling before. This is nothing. It's not new because they were
Mm-hmm.
struggling before. One of the
Mm-hmm.
things that we had before was that, uh, for example, during the pandemic, we fed 122,000 plates to hungry kids. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and because what we realized is that, for example, we got a lady uh, was paying 36% interest on her car payment. This was 10 years ago. So we tell her,
Wow.
go sign up at the North Carolina State Employees Credit Union, where you can probably get it at 4%.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We, she went in 6 months later. Say it might take you 6 months to a year to get where you're trying to get to. 6 months later, she went from paying $450 for a 10-year-old car. Now she's paying $200 and some dollars, and she got a brand new car. So we have to
Wow.
start with affordability. We have to start with the interest rate. Well, if you take that 36% interest off the car, then you take that 36, then you take them out of that finance company that they've been working with. And we come and say, hey, we'll go borrow the money from the state employee credit union. And then things start to come into a little bit. But then there's also that one that won't listen to you. And I deal with a lot of those too. And what I deal with a lot of is drugs. When you got a parent or somebody like a parent
Mm-hmm.
who on drugs,
Mm-hmm.
and you got that kid that I'm trying to help. Well, these kids eat pretty good when them food stamps come, but a lot of that's been cut off. Where they were getting like $800 and $900 a month food stamp, now they've been cut down to maybe $300-400 a month, and that makes it hard because a lot of times the lights are getting cut off. We get all kinds of calls, and people are constantly calling needing help.
I I wonder if some of them uh, maybe it has something to do with their education. It may have something to do with their lifestyles. It may have something to do with how they're able to cope with the world, mental
Mm-hmm.
issues.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wonder how much of affordability is affected, or their affordability of things like housing and food is affected by the societal issues. Because it mentioned one of the articles about what your work is is how you tackle societal issues. So could you talk about that a little bit?
I think it's just a combination of everything. I think one of the things that society have taught us is by aiming at nothing, you're sure to hit it. And so you have to teach them, you start small. My son graduated from NC State. He came home, he looked at me, Daddy, I want to get big. And I told him, I say, son, if you want to get big, start small. And
Yeah.
so many of us want to get big before we start small. Um, one of the things that I find out with these kids is that if I can take a kid at 6 years old and work with that kid, start him about 6 years old, and keep him with me for about 10 years. He's in the first second 10 to 12 years. If I can keep
Mhm.
that kid with me, have him something to do, I'm in competition with the dope man. So I
Mm,
have to have something to be able to offer that kid. Just like I told you about Coach Graham had something to offer me.
right.
He was my
Right.
mentor. Bill Gladden had something to offer me. My Uncle Charles had something to offer me. I've got to get mentors around these young folk. Sometimes I can't work with the parents. Sometimes because sometimes the kids are running the house. So I have to go through the kid to get the parent to do what I want them to do. And so I work on the kid in order to get the parent right.
I understand that completely. I have a friend who works in the school system in New Jersey, or she did. And
Mm-hmm,
that's one of the things she always said, that it was the parents who weren't doing their jobs
mm-hmm,
sometimes. And she would go to the parents' houses and say, look, he didn't come to school today. I'm going to come by tomorrow and pick him up. So make sure he goes to school. So she
mm-hmm,
was doing things like that. And it
mm-hmm,
sounds as if that's what you're doing.
mm-hmm.
You're at the very bottom of ground of grassroots trying to pull up people and help them to stand.
Mm-hmm.
That's a challenge. To me, it sounds like such a challenge. What does it take for you, your spirit, for you to give like that?
It's natural for me.
Is it?
I've been doing this all my life. When I was young and families didn't have nothing to eat on Copel Street, the money I would have, I would go buy a hamburger helper. I would go buy, you remember the cheeseburger you don't know what hamburger helper is, do you?
Oh yeah. Oh,
Okay.
absolutely.
I didn't know since you're from Jersey, since you moved up to Jersey, I didn't know if you knew what that hamburger helper was. I know you're in
Look,
Wallace now, but I
hamburger
didn't know.
help is a big thing in New Jersey.
So I would go, what I would do is if some of the kids and I knew that their parents wasn't there back then, I would go
Hmm.
buy hamburger helper because I knew that was a meal and sometimes that could last 2 days. I would get
Right.
Kool-Aid, I would get like biscuits and for the sister at that time to cook
Hmm.
for them. I,
Hmm.
I've been doing this a long. It's almost like this is what I've been ordained to do, and now when I do it, it's almost natural. At 60, 64 plus, you know, it's it's you have to have more people around you to do it now because the energy level that you have, you got to manage the process more than trying. When I first started,
Yeah.
I had to do it. Now I try to manage it a little bit more and get more people around me.
That's a really interesting statement because it's often hard to get people around you, and when you do, it's more difficult to help them have the vision that you see. But you apparently have been able to do that. What's the lesson that you help people to learn?
If you pay peanuts, you get monkeys.
Huh? I don't think I've heard that one. Like it.
If you if you pay peanuts, you get monkey. You got to pay people. You
Yeah.
got to pay the level that you want to get to. What if you pay people well enough, you can tell them what to do. That's what I found out. So you got to get out here and struggle, whatever it's got to do. You got to pay the people. And if I'm paying them well enough, I can tell them what I want them to do. I ain't always been able. I still try to struggle. I struggle sometimes to do it, but the people around me got to have the same vision that I got for the kids.
Yeah, yeah. And they need to
Mm-hmm.
in order to do what you're doing
Mm-hmm.
successfully. Let me ask you this. I before I ever heard your name, I saw an article on television about your car program and how you had developed a program for parents who needed to get to work and their cars weren't working. How'd you come up with one, the concept of helping like that? And who are your partners in this endeavor? Because it's to me, it's so creative.
Mm-hmm. Well, you got members of your church who own like automobile company. I mean, own little local in the community. They got their own little garages, and so
Hmm.
you work
Hmm.
with them. To offset some of the costs. You work with those ones in the community. Like you take your car down to the Ford place, they're gonna charge you $50, $60 an hour.
Right, right.
Just for something that probably could be fixed for like $10, and they're gonna charge you probably $300 to do it. Where I can take it to the guy in the local community, because most of the cars, some of them may have a Honda or a car that they could work on, and they could fix it for little or nothing. So that's what we try to do a lot of.
I wanted to share with our listeners a little quote about an art from an article that I read about your movie,
Mm-hmm.
which I found so inspiring. I'm so glad to have been able to see it. The article says, and I'm quoting from the article. It reviewed your movie, and in it said, he fights and fights for the children. Besides the struggling against hunger, drug dealers, gangs, and a system seemingly rigged against them depending on their zip code. He believes, this is you, converting religious teaching into action. He believes that. And he leads the Black church supporting the children and offering them a way out through activities like feeding families and presenting a range of educational activities designed to raise test scores, entertaining them and expanding their worldview, which is what we've been talking about, and providing training in basic life lessons. It's like balancing a checkbook. So when we come back, we'll talk about Sunlight, Children Matter. This is the name of the movie. We'll be back in a minute. To our listeners, you have been listening to Voices of We the People. Our guest is the Reverend Dr. Donald Gray, pastor of Mount Sinai Baptist Church in Catawba, North Carolina. And we'll return to that conversation in just a minute. But I want to check in with our listeners and to say, I know you're wondering what's coming up next. Well, for the next 3 weeks, we'll be on vacation. And so we will re-air some of our best, what is it they say on television? Some of our very best episodes. So we won't lose touch with you, but we won't be producing new ones. And that'll be through about the 21st of July. And after that, we are going to begin to feature our Gen Zers again and bring them into the discussion. Last time it was about affordability. This time it's about voting and what they see and feel about what we're doing with our communities and voting. And then in August, and this is something I'm really excited about, we're going to have two broadcasts that really discuss protest music. One of the things we don't often think about is as we're protesting in our communities, in our neighborhoods, in the cities, you'll often see people singing or beating drums or being involved in the music part of protests. And so these two podcasts are going to be about what influences the protest music. And one of the things that's fascinating is a lot of the music comes out of the Black church, of which Pastor Gray's church is a tradition. And so we're going to talk about the music, who produced it, um, and how it came to be part of the protest movement. So we're really excited about that one. That's in August. And don't forget, we need your donations. We need your support to continue. And I want to say the podcast today is supported and encouraged by Jerome and Sandra Brown. They have made donations to us, and we need more like them for our broadcast. And now we're going to get back to our broadcast with Reverend Dr. Gray and the amazing ministry that he's built in Catawba. But first, we're going to talk about his movie. I've looked at it. It's so inspirational. It's so much that we need to encourage everybody to look at. It's a passion. You can tell it's a passion that he has to help our children and to help our families. So we're going to go back to that. I'm going to ask him two things. First off, how'd you come up with the title of that movie, Pastor Gray?
Well, two things I want to say. That first of all, our director is named Bill Webb. He's out of Florida. During the pandemic, Bill and I both were from Kannapolis, and Bill lives in Florida. And Bill saw some of the stuff I was doing, and Bill wrote a book. And
Oh, really?
And Bill wrote this book, and he put a chapter of my story in his book. And Bill was already doing film. He was already doing some films. His film was doing well. Somebody in another film festival saw the book and asked Bill, "Do you think you could do a movie about this? What I saw this chapter of you talked about this guy Donald Gray." And so Bill called me, and we started working on it. It took us about 3 years to do the movie. So it was a lot of it was everything we did in the movie is a reflection of the things I've done. But it took us about 3 years. It was edited by an Academy Award winner. It was we've won last month, for example, we won the Black Las Vegas Film Festival, won the film festival in Atlanta, New York's won one in New York, Toronto, Paris. So we run a lot of the film festivals around. But the way it came up was director Bill Webb called me and asked me to do it. And he was the director of this film.
Now, how'd the title come up? Because it's not.
Bill did it all. Bill come up with all that. Bill come up with it.
Really?
I didn't do it. Bill did it. I'm not trying to take. Bill did that. Bill Webb, our director. He did that.
Well, I have to say, I'm so inspired by the movie. So I'm going to ask you just a couple of questions.
Okay.
We already talked about the title. And what it said, what I was really interested in is how you got the families to talk on camera. Because a lot of times people are reticent. They're not really all that forthcoming to speak on camera about what's going on in their lives. So how'd you do that?
When you got relationship with people, and you deal with people, and you're real with them, and you got a real true relationship, father, a mentor type relationship, you build trust. And trust comes through action, not through words. And so I always try to be honest with them. If I can't do it, I'm gonna tell them I can't do it. I just be honest with them. And so some of these people, if you went up to them now, they're just shy can be. They wouldn't even talk to you. But it was just, it was almost like the anointing of God was on the whole movie. I remember one of the scenes, we were coming back from the jailhouse, and Sheriff Don Brown was riding the car, and we just turned on the road, and all of a sudden he see this guy that this just happened in the movie with the black guy. We turned on the road, and all of a sudden, and Don said, because Don he's the sheriff of Catawba County, but he used to be the chief of police in Newton, North Carolina, which is a little city. He said, he went over there and he said, look, come here, what you doing? And then they started to talk. All that fell in place. So a lot of stuff that we did, it was like it fell right in place. It was God.
Again, it was part of what enthralled me about it. It was that it didn't feel contrived. You know what I mean? It felt real. It felt like the calling that you have
Hmm.
for working with the children, working with the families. The movie felt that way to
Hmm.
me.
Hmm.
And by the way, I encourage other folks who, if you can get to Tubi, I think it's still streaming. Last week, it was last week anyway.
It
Um,
is. It's still streaming.
Still streaming. It
Yes.
and that's a free stream, so it's worth going and finding Tubi and look, and you might have to search for Sunlight Children Matter, but it's really worth what your time. I think it's what, about an hour and a half.
Hour and a half. Yes.
Yeah.
We had to take it so it could be a. We started out about 3 years ago, and it was just a documentary. We had to make a theatrical documentary. That's why we added 30 more minutes onto it.
Oh, okay.
So it took
Because
us.
go ahead on.
We had to go back and put 30 more minutes onto it.
Well, it sort of felt like a documentary, but it was more it had deeper meaning than sometimes documentaries have.
Hmm.
And that's what I found so inspiring about it. And the fact that families really responded to you. And you mentioned relationships. I find it amazing that you have developed all these relationships with other folks and who
Hmm.
support what your work is.
Hmm.
How do you develop the relationships?
I remember in 2009, I'd run out of money. I spent about 200 and plus. I ain't gonna tell my wife because 200,000 plus on
I
these
think you're
kids.
telling her now. I mean, I'm just saying.
Okay, she knows now because I don't tell her. But 200,000 plus of my UPS money, and I was beginning to run out of money, and I was on a board in Hickory, the Hickory Catawba County Resource Children Resource Board, and I asked a lady. I said, I don't have no money, and these kids need help. I said, who will help me? And she said, my biggest supporter. I got one that I know will help. Her name is Michelle McQuarrie, and she introduced me to Michelle McQuarrie, and uh, we didn't have no money. We had run out. And we had these kids. Had about 30 kids, and they didn't have no money. They couldn't pay hardly. And Michelle set up a meeting to come and see us. And she was sitting at at our church, and she had an envelope. You know, we had people give us maybe $200 or $300, and Michelle came and she was talking. She said, "I don't know you, but I knew about her. I knew that they're giving $60 million to Wake Forest. I knew that they're giving
Mhm.
now over $100 million to people, and I was just nervous, and I was shaking like the ghost of Mr. Chicken. I was shaking because I was so nervous because I'd never been around nobody that wealthy. And she told me, she said, you don't have to be nervous. She said, but I don't live in your world. You got to put me in your world. And she said, I'm on my way to Africa. I'm turning 50 and I'm on my way to Africa. She said, I want to do something different with my life, and God is leading me to do something different. And she said, and she told me what she was doing. And I said, ma'am, you don't need to drive past Catawba to get to Charlotte and fly back over these black folk, go 5,000 miles. Black folk right here in Catawba, you can help. She had already written the check out, and the first check she wrote us was $10,000 in 2008 or nine.
Mhm.
$10,000, and so she's, you know, she was one who helped us out continuously.
Mhm.
Michelle
Mhm.
was been our biggest supporter. God bless her soul. I mean, so it was people like her, a white woman, Michelle McQuarrie, who's probably for her we wouldn't have been able to do the stuff we've done.
You know that God puts angels in your path.
He put an angel.
Yeah, he does. He
He
does.
put an angel.
Uh, we're gonna have to close out our conversation because last time I went kind of long, so I've been admonished
Yeah,
about
sure,
going
sure.
long this time.
Okay.
But we're not going yet. Nope, nope, we're not
Okay.
finished. I just have another question for you. And I sort of asked it already, but what are some of the lessons that you've learned in your ministry that you would like to share so that other people can have the success, the passion, the interest in what you're doing?
Mhm. If I had anything to say, and I want to say thank God for my wife, 40 plus years. In the movie, my wife talks about we two different people. She was
Yeah.
brought up in a nice home, had dogs, putting Cocker Spaniel dogs and putting Bill Picasso sweaters on when I met her. So we're from we're from two different backgrounds. And if I had anything to say, um, I told Michelle McCrary when I caught COVID in 2020. Michelle called and I told her I thought I was going to die. She said, "You ain't going to die. Shut up. You ain't going to die." When we got better, my wife, Michelle, and myself went and got our COVID shots together. 2 years ago, you're talking about Angel. 2 years ago, I ain't gonna tell you the amount of money they're giving us, but they're giving us a lot of money. 2 years
Hmm.
ago, I told Michelle one of the vans that they bought us two vans. I told her something was wrong with the transmission was broke. She said, take it to Dale Earnhardt. And I took it to Dale Earnhardt Chevrolet. It was $7,000. She brings me a check over there, and I begin to tell her if I had this to do over again, it's been too hard on my family. This was
Hmm.
this journey has been hard on my family. If I had it to do over again, I would have stayed with UPS. I would not have done this. That's why God don't do this. I told Michelle that. She told me, hush, God knows what he's doing. I'm gonna hurry up. But 2 weeks later, I get a phone call. She falls dead. She breaks her neck and dies. Fell dead. My biggest supporter falls, break her neck and dead, dies. Her
Oh my.
husband, who they've given out $100 million, they're in the
Mm.
field, had given out $100 million, called this Baptist preacher and asked him would he do his wife's eulogy in a Catholic church with 1,200 people there and some billionaires there. So God has a plan for all of our life,
Yes.
regardless of what we may think. God says, I know the plans I have for you. And God knows the plans. And he won't show you everything. He'll give you the puzzle, but he'll let you put it together.
Amen to that. I am inspired to try to keep doing a little bit in my share of Eastern North Carolina. I have been inspired by this conversation, and I just want to say thank you. Thank you for sharing what you do. Thank you for being so humble about what you do.
Mm-hmm.
That particularly is inspiring all by itself.
Thank you.
And I want to say Godspeed with whatever else you're involved in. And if we can help you in any way, just let us know.
Okay, definitely will.
Again, we're talking with, and we've been talking with Pastor Donald Gray, who is with at the pastor at Mount Sinai Baptist Church in Catawba, North Carolina. And don't forget, go to Tubi and take a look at Sunshine Children Matter. It's an amazing, amazing movie. Um, and thank you so much, Dr. Gray, for
Bless you.
the powerful lessons that you are helping us to learn.
Thank
Thank you so much. And to our listeners, don't forget to go to our website, Voice of We the People, and we'll have some information about what Reverend Dr. Gray is doing. And you can take a look at other podcasts by going to 810 Studios, the app. And most of all, you can support our work with your donations and sponsorships and see our website for more information. And I want to thank so much our podcast manager and director. That's Tamika Robinson. She's also director of Awesome for us. I mean, she's just an amazing gifted, and sharing person. So thank you. And to my husband, James, who is director of all things technical, because you have no clue about how I don't have technical expertise at all. So we need him. And I want to thank Willie Sanders and Gloria Goodwin, who both live in Onslow County and support us. And remember, Dr. King believed in the ability to change society through the power of the vote. And in fact, he said, the great irony of our present moment is that both of these precepts, peaceful change and voting rights, are under assault and threatened in America as never before. And we see that every day. So thank you so much for listening to us. We will be on the air again in mid July, and we will announce that at our website. So thank you so much for listening, and thank Dr. Gray for the work that he's doing, the inspiration that he shares.